What's up, guys? Welcome back to the P&J Sports Show, Episode 2. My name is Jesus, aka Big Slime. This is Preston, aka KMA Sports. Thank you guys for all the views and the comment on the first video.
Wonder who made that.
Our first topic of the day is the NBA play-in tournament. The games are like almost confirmed. They definitely are on the East Conference, not yet on the West. On the Eastern Conference games, it'll be the Magic playing the Hawks, and the Bulls playing the Heat. On the West, if they started today, which is being recorded on Saturday, April 12th at 5:43 p.m., it would be Memphis playing the Timberwolves and the Kings playing the Mavericks. Going on to the first game of the Eastern Conference play-in tournament, Magic versus Hawks. I'm a hater of the Hawks, and I don't think they'll be that good. I think the winner is going to be the Magic, and they'll go on to play the Celtics. The Bulls versus Heat. I don't think the Heat are really good, to be honest. And although the Bulls are below 500 as well, just like I think all four of these teams are, except maybe the Magic. They might be barely. I think the Bulls, they're riding a little bit of momentum. They've been playing good recently. I think they'll win against the Heat and then also against the Hawks. However, I think all the teams here are going to lose to this, whether it's the Celtics or the Cavs.
Yeah, for sure.
Preston, thoughts?
It's pretty much straight line agreement with you on all these things. Obviously, I think by far the Magic are the best of these four teams. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because the Celtics and Cavs are such juggernauts in terms of what the playoffs are likely going to end up being like. But yeah, I would agree that I have the Magic over the Hawks. To me, the Hawks and Bulls is they're all kind of tossed up.
Who's
They're
going to
all
lose?
under 500. They all suck. Who wants to go home sooner? You know, that's kind of what it feels like. To me, I have the Bulls.
Sorry, go.
Okay, so I have the Heat over the Bull. I mean, the Bulls over the Heat, like you, just because I feel like the Heat have just never reset from all the Jimmy Butler bullcrap and get rid of him, and it's just they're a mess. They probably need the offseason more than some of these other teams. So I have a feeling that it will be the same picks as you, and I think the Bulls can probably beat the Hawks too. But it's not like I'm very confident. Nor do I honestly think either fan base cares too much because they're gonna get. I don't think it'll be pretty when they move on to Cleveland, is what I'll say.
Yeah. I was correct about the Magic. If they win today, they win 2 games.
Yeah.
Or 1 game. No, 2 games over 500.
They're the one team of those four.
But if they lose, they'll be 500. Yeah.
It feels like they have an actual future. Like there's something they could look forward to. Like there's more hope for that franchise than the other ones right now, is what I'd say.
Yep. Moving on to the West Coast, if the season ended today, I'd have the Timberwolves will play the Grizzlies and the Kings will play the Mavs. I have the Timberwolves beating Memphis and moving on to play the Rockets, and then I have the Kings beating the Mavs, moving on to play the Grizzlies. And then I have Memphis beating the Kings, setting them up against OKC. And I believe they can upset OKC. As long as Shea doesn't get 25 free throws a game, they're not that great. Preston, off to you.
A lot to unpack there. That's what I'll say. In terms of everything up until the last comment, find myself in agreement again. I think Minnesota is probably still a bit better than Memphis. I know they've had some struggles later in the year, but to me, any of these teams who fired their coaches this late in the year, I just have a weird hesitance about. But so yeah, I got Minnesota winning that one. Their series against the Rockets might actually be interesting just because of how young and untested that Rockets team is. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to Kings versus Mavs, this is very similar to the Heat situation to me, where the Mavs just seem like a team in disarray. A team that might just be ready to pack it in, not even subconsciously, I guess. Like, not saying they're choosing to lose, but they just seem kind of mentally defeated already
Yeah.
at this point in the season.
That's a good way to put it.
So that's probably why I'd have the Canes just a slight edge. And then I agree with you as well. I would have Memphis beating the Canes or the Mavs, like regardless of who gets there. I think Memphis is just a better team overall. In terms of beating OKC, that's I don't agree with that at all.
Thing. That's definitely me.
It seems like some bias against the city of.
Side note, fuck the refs, bro. They ruined what would have been the game of the in season. Mm-hmm. That Lakers and Thunder game was legitimately like such a good game, back and forth. It was so good. And then Luka says something to a fan that's near the ref, and the ref is like, "Oh, you did it to me, Tech, get out."
That's been one of my problems with the NBA for years now. Is the officiating?
It's so dumb. Like, you can't say something to like a fan who was like drunk and talking shit, and
we can't do much.
And then that same game after that, Vanderbilt blocked one of the players in OKC. I can't remember his name. I think it was Williams, one of them. And then all he did was look at him as he started walking, and the ref, Tech. But then fucking Shea hits a 3, does a TikTok dance, nothing. Like, what? Come on, bro. Like,
I hope, let's just say,
so much.
I hope in the playoffs they get some memo to maybe chill out a bit on all the texts over bullcrap. It's the playoffs, man. They should be allowed to celebrate. They should be in the moment. That's more of a league problem than a team problem, is what I'd say. Also, in terms of just further adding to this OKC-Memphis thing, like, man, Memphis is a team, like I said, they fired their coach that I'm pretty sure the players liked, which adds to this whole interesting element. Not to mention, Ja just keeps living in his own world, beefing with all of NBA officials he can. He's just shooting guns at everyone. He's going to find himself suspended for one of the games in the playoffs or something stupid like that. And then it'll really solidify they won't win. But to me, OKC is very good, man. And they're getting better. They play the ball the right way for the most part, I'd say. And I think they just have really good chemistry compared to most of the teams in this league right now, especially in the West. So I just don't see an upset happening, at least in the first round.
Fair. Also, he's not throwing a grenade. He's taking his words, throwing it to the crowd, and shutting out the haters. He said it himself. Come on, man.
And all the real guns on his Instagram, those were water guns.
Yeah. They're just BB guns.
All right, guys. So for the second segment of today's show, we're just going to be diving into some college football news real quick. I'm going to briefly touch on Notre Dame's spring game that just occurred and get a bit into the Tennessee quarterback news and how that affects kind of college football as a whole. Jesus isn't as knowledgeable on college football, but he's still going to give some thoughts in the end after I try my best to kind of explain these situations. But first, let's go with the easy news. That was Notre Dame's spring game just wrapped up on April 12th when we were recording this. All three quarterbacks played equal time yet again. And in my personal opinion, it looks like C.J. Carr is the best of the three quarterbacks. Stephen Jelly is the one who's people talk about the most just because he's been with the program the longest. He played a little bit, notably in that Penn State game where he led him on a field goal drive right before halftime. But the reality is he's just not as talented as these younger guys. And so I'm really hoping after what we've finally seen, I'm assuming they see it all in practice. And come fall against Miami, it will be C.J. Carr or Kenny Minchie as the starter. Other than that, I mean, a lot of young guys looked well. They had fun, but it's tough to draw too much from it as they're rotating a lot. A lot of guys were sitting out. It's just your typical spring game, just a scrimmage for fans that have fun. But I would say quarterback, it looks really clear to me now who should be the starter for Notre Dame, and that's C.J. Carr. Now for the bigger news is when we found out that Tennessee quarterback Nico, can't pronounce his last name, so I won't, but you know who I'm talking about, people, was skipping out on practices. This caused a big uproar. People were trying to figure out what it was. Initially, the reports came out that it was over NIL, so of course people were mad, which I'm in agreement on. I'll get to that. But then his dad came out and tried to deny any of this was happening, and even like came after the reporter who was reporting on it initially. Turns out that reporter was right, so it makes Nico and his family look even worse, just lying about this for no real reason. So the story here is, coming out of high school, so last year was Nico's freshman year, and he did play. So he's heading into his sophomore year. To sign them out of high school, he played. So he played his true freshman year last year with the team. Did all right. I'll get into that too. But So just for Tennessee to land him out of high school, they gave him an $8 million NIL deal, which was split over like the 4 years. So he made, allegedly from the Athletic article I just read, he made $2.2 million his freshman year, and he was set to make $2.2 million this year. But he decided that he was going to demand that they basically doubled the money to $4 million for this season.
Damn.
And when Tennessee didn't budge, he skipped practices, and so Tennessee eventually just said, "Yeah, no, we're putting our foot down. We're just moving on." So now Nico is in the portal, and he's going to try to see if any team is willing to pay $4 million for his services this season. The only things he has on his side is the likely fact that he probably will improve from his freshman year, and he's young, like he has 3 seasons left, counting this one. So it'll be interesting to see what teams kind of come out of the woodwork for him, what teams are willing to pay them, because it does seem like, I wonder if it would cause any locker room issues at the new team, because it seems like everyone will know that guy is making $4 million, and it might upset some people on his new team are like, so I guess like 200K, like what's going on? So it's very interesting. I will give you the stats on Nico just so we can kind of see, like, this is, I think, the bigger problem some people have is, I think one thing I saw is like people would probably be more supportive of him holding out. Like people have been in favor of the players getting paid and stuff, but it's the way he did it, and the fact that most people feel like he hasn't earned it. Like they don't. So his freshman year, he had 2.6 thousand passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Like it's all right, and it's certainly not spectacular for college football, is what I'd say. And then you throw in the fact we have some other interesting stats here. Sorry, guys, when you see me looking at my phone, it's because I have to find the stats I'm looking for. I hate when I had it saved in the exact spot for the article, and then it wants to flip things on me. Okay, here we go. So I said he had 19 touchdowns, but 11 of them came against Chattanooga, UTEP, and Vanderbilt. So those are all teams that are a lower level than Tennessee. Vanderbilt is a little fair because it's still SEC, but Chattanooga plays in the division below them, and UTEP plays in the group of 5, which is below them, and it's one of the worst programs in the group of 5. So he essentially stat padded this season. Like his numbers against the top teams were not very good at all. In the playoff game against Ohio State, when Tennessee just got absolutely demolished, he had like under 200 passing yards, just not very good. So the whole beef was, how is a kid who's coming off an okay season at best think he's worthy of doubling his NIL money and is willing to completely leave his team over that? So most fans are in agreement that he's wrong here, even some of the ones who are normally pro player in movements like this. So I'm just curious what your thoughts are. It's a very NFL-like move, but in college football.
I think, like, I'm always in favor of players getting paid. Like when I first got in the NFL and we were talking about college, and I asked you how come, like, this, because I'd always hear that, like, oh, this player got suspended or he lost a year of eligibility or whatever because he took like $2,000 worth of food or something from the program for free, and you were like, yeah, players aren't allowed to get anything. And I was like, damn, that's like, I was always like, that's stupid. And then when they introduced NIL, and I'm like, oh, because like these colleges make millions off these players, but the players don't get anything. Well, I mean, I guess they get the playing experience and the chance to make the NFL, but like
tuition
there's
costs,
there's maybe 300 people that make it to the NFL every year, and that's like 3 colleges with the players, maybe 4. I guess I'm lowballing a little. So I just think, and there's like 200 something Division I schools.
There's like 130 D1 schools.
That's still that's a lot of players.
Yeah, and they're carrying like 80-man rosters, So that's...
But I do think he is a little out of line, and I think this is it's like sorry, I'm thinking it's like if you start letting quarterbacks act like this in college, it takes away more NIL money from other positions, kind of like how it does in the NFL, when it's like, hey, the cap went up $20 million, and QBs are like, well, I want $10 million more per year now.
They basically
and then it's like, oh, what about the left guard? What about the linebacker? It's like, sorry, buddy, you still play for free. We'll give you free food though. It's like, okay,
So it
no,
does. I think it just further showcases the problem with NIL isn't that players are getting paid. It's that we're in this
colleges
weird
are buying players.
limbo of rules and vagueness. It's like the
Mhm.
Wild West. Like I think any other sports league, if you get paid, it's a contract. It's not a NFL players do
If
try
you
to hold
feel
out
like it,
sometimes, but it's still they're under contract.
it
Like
rarely
the problem
works.
with NIL is it's not really like sure if they transfer they're not getting money from that school anymore, but they can easily find the same amount or more from their next school. So like there's nothing keeping you in place if you're getting paid, and so I guess it doesn't really shock me if some players like you know what, I know you need a quarterback, so that's what I felt was dirty. I guess we don't know all the behind the scenes, but the fact this is happening now instead of like immediately after the season, it
Yeah,
feels slimy to me. It feels like Nico knew it was like,
because
hey, if I
most
leave,
recruits are
you're not gonna
already
have a
signed
quarterback.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
you're not gonna have a quarterback, and the season starts in like 4 months. What are you gonna do? You're gonna have to bring a transfer in, and he's only gonna have like 2 months to try to learn this offense and start. So he
yeah.
thought
I
he could.
think
He thought he had leverage. He was proved wrong. They got rid of him. He's not going to be liked for. I mean, Tennessee.
yeah.
It's not very often you see fans get behind the team more than a player when something like a pay issue arises. It's a very
Mhm.
unique situation. I think that can pretty much only happen in college ball because we're still in this weird tug of war between. Man, this is college football. It's life experience. It's the minor leagues. Like you're developing, you're growing, and a lot of people still feel that sense of like dude, you're there for your teammates, man, or you're there for the experience, and you're there to learn and grow. And
Because
they feel a certain way when people start treating it too much like a business, if that makes sense. Like they're pushing it even too far. And some of that's not even on the players. I think one other big problem you see now is unfortunately there's a lot of parents out there who are I'm not saying they couldn't
managers,
use money. Everyone can use money, but they're a little money hungry, and they're always whispering in their kids' ear like, "You should transfer every year of your career and get a new bag." Like
yeah,
we see kids who are on their fourth school in 4 years. Like it happens now. Like it's not. I hate all of it.
it's
There needs to
yeah.
be rules. I know there's stuff tied up in courts right now where if stuff goes the way it's supposed to, it looks like it might become more like the NFL in terms of each team is going to have like 30 million to spend on rosters or something like that
Mhm.
instead of relying on boosters and whatnot. It'll be very interesting. That'd be a step in the right direction. I think ultimately, if they're going to get paid and you keep calling them professionals, then they need to be professionals. There needs to be a salary cap. There needs to be contracts, like all that stuff. So we'll see how it goes. For now, we're still stuck in this weird, unfortunate limbo, and we'll see where Nico ends up. But I have to say, I'm hoping players learn from this and don't try to pull stuff like this as often.
Yeah, I got a couple things to add. Like, I do think there should be a couple rules. I think a cap of how much they could spend an hour. I think that's good, but I think the best way to do this so that there's like some level of commitment is to make it like an actual contract. Like,
Yeah.
if you want, like, you'll take the 4 million for 2 years, right? So you only get that money if you play the 2 years, and then if you want to leave, like you can leave. Like I think that's if a player wants to transfer, like whatever, but then all that money that you're entitled to should be like taken away, and
Yeah,
then
well, if you
people
haven't
should
paid it to
yeah.
him yet, you keep that money, obviously.
Hmm.
But I think another interesting theory I saw one coach throw around was instead of making it more like the NFL, make it more like soccer. He the way he
Mm.
described it was pay the schools that you're stealing from, like turn it into a
Oh yeah, 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 like a transfer.
yeah, like the transfer window. So turn it into like, oh, Ball State's gonna lose their star tight end to like Wisconsin, but hey, look, Wisconsin had to pay them $1 million, so now Ball State can use that million to bring in new players to replace the guy they lost. That's a very interesting concept. It's probably tougher to actually make reality, but that is one I did enjoy, and I think it makes sense because the reality is more and more the smaller schools are becoming funnel teams. Where like they find the kids, the underdogs in high school and develop them. But then the big dogs come and say, "Oh, thank you for developing this guy for us. We'll take it from here, and then we'll win big games with him." So I think something like a
Yeah,
actual transfer window would make a lot of sense. and it'd make the small
I
schools hurt less for losing talent, and it'd allow them to replace talent easier as well.
like it's like, oh, we took your guy. Here's 500,000 you can put towards someone else.
Your own
Yeah, I
funds.
think a good window would be when the season ends, which
Yep.
seems to be mid-December. Because I
If
mean,
you're
yeah,
counting
there's
the
bowl
Natty,
games,
it
but
goes
not.
all the way till like the
Yeah,
second week
but
of
I
January.
think for most teams it ends before the bowls, and I think that's a fair time to do it because most of the people that you would have looking for these talents don't have to deal with like training and stuff or too much, other than maybe the head coach. And then it should be National Signing Day is February 4th. So I
But the
think
truth is,
from
college football's schedule,
December to
their in-season stuff's a mess. So I'm gonna tell you the truth here now. Is most high schoolers sign in December. Actually, it's called the early signing day. But nowadays, it's the de facto like actual signing day. Like less and less people actually sign in February. But I agree with. I think you open the window immediately after the national title game. That way, you don't have to deal with like if you're a player on a playoff team, especially if they're going to keep expanding the playoffs. You don't want to be put in a situation where you have to be like, I need to transfer, but I don't want to ditch my team that's in the
team.
playoff.
Okay, yeah.
Right? That's
So
crazy.
yeah, after Natty, before March, that's a good window
Yeah.
right there. Okay.
So to me, that'd be the perfect, like a soccer transfer window. But anything, really, just more rules, more clarity could help prevent a lot of this stuff. Basically, at the end of the day.
Real quick, I looked up what schools Nico Iamaleava,
Something like that.
best attempt, is likely to sign to, or which one's interested. And there's three that I at least were on multiple articles, and the reasonings on it make sense. First one, these aren't in like order, like most likely, second likely. These are just from what I'm reading. First of all, it's North Carolina, because I guess Bill Belichick does not like any of the quarterbacks they have right now. Allegedly,
they don't have an impressive one right now, so I would believe that.
yeah, and that he wants to make a splash and prove like, hey, I could get some, and I guess they have the money for it.
They probably do.
Secondly, Texas Tech, they've been known to have deep pockets, I guess, and
this time around,
their returning starter, Baron Morton, they like, but it's not stopping them from pursuing other upgrades.
Yeah.
And then lastly, USC, because he's from there. Lincoln Riley, I guess, likes him, and he hasn't named a starting quarterback yet. And then allegedly he doesn't like his options, and his Iamaleava's NIL price isn't out of reach. So
yeah. So I've heard some conflicting things on USC, but I do think logically speaking, it does make sense because they're between a former UNLV transfer who did okay in his playing time last year and a true freshman with talent, but a true freshman nonetheless. Another team I would throw out there, this seems way less realistic just because they're not a popular school people think about, but Purdue is in the same boat as North Carolina in terms of not having probably a starting worthy quarterback. And although they're less likely to have $4 million for a quarterback, but I guess hypothetically it's possible. Or if the whole market decides we're not paying you $4 million, we're not giving you what you want.
then he's like,
damn, interesting to
gotta
see
go
what happens there too.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd go back. I think that bridge is burned, but he might.
Or I mean, they gotta go back to the asking price. That's what I mean.
Yeah, so they might have to settle for less money depending on how much the schools want to unite and like posture against what he did. But we'll see. Those schools make sense though.
Okay. That wraps up the college football news. Fuck it. Moving on to not the last segment, the next segment. We have NFL news, which is really more just news for the Saints and Derek Carr. Derek Carr looks to be likely out for the season, not 100% confirmed yet, with a shoulder injury. And this is not great for Saints fans. It already wasn't looking that good. But now, I mean, you're the best available quarterbacks in free agency, and they don't have a lot of money anyway, are Aaron Rodgers, Ryan Tannehill, and Carson Wentz. Now, it is possible that they have a couple trade targets, like Aiden O'Connell from the Raiders, Sam Howell from Seattle, or Kirk Cousins if he wants to from Atlanta. Interesting with how, because earlier today or late last night, I can't remember, Drew Lock agreed and allegedly, I don't know if he signed yet, but he agreed to terms with Seattle. So that puts Sam Howell on the available.
Possibly, yeah. So, a few things I'd add. There's still a chance Kirk Cousins doesn't need to be traded for. A lot of right now, it kind of feels like teams are still hoping to like call Atlanta's bluff on actually keeping him and paying him when they should just cut him ultimately. So we'll see. There's a chance you could just get him as a free agent. There's also the chance that's why I hesitated when he said Saints fans will be sad. I'm like, maybe this is what they want.
Well, yeah,
Maybe
they
they're just
want
a
to
bad
tank,
team,
bro.
and being bad might be good for a little bit. Like the way they've spent and the mess they have, it might make sense. But if that's not the case, they also pick at 9 in this year's draft, which means there could be a quarterback at 9 they're comfortable taking, and they also being at 9 means you're more likely to be able to move up easier than some other teams, which means you could even be aggressively going after a quarterback in this draft. It's interesting. I don't think they are that committed to Derek Carr, regardless. If we're being honest, so
No,
like,
I think they were going to let his contract pay out and then let him go.
I don't think drafting a QB is out of the question. I think it would make sense for them,
No.
even if Carr plays for them next year or something. They would still. It wouldn't shock me at all if they went quarterback in the first round. It's just been even more amplified now. Like originally, I would think like edge rusher or something else maybe, but at this point, if Shador is there, see that's my problem. Is to me, it's Shador and Cam Ward are the only like close to first round.
Cam's not going to be there because Tennessee is going to do it, and I
So
don't
it's
know
like
if
if
Tennessee
Shador
wants
falls
to
to
drop
9, I'd take him in a second. If
Oh,
you have to trade up
100%.
to get him, I'd think about it a little bit, and I probably wouldn't take a Dart or someone else.
Dart at 9 that's like
I
a
don't think
risk. That's even worse than Pickett at 22, and that wasn't even horrible to be honest.
At
But
that point, you might just wait for Cousins to get released by Atlanta or something and just roll with him for a year, or trade for Howell or something and just accept being bad. I don't know, but we'll see. To me, draft is the thing to watch heaviest right now. I think we won't know what their plan is until after the draft in terms of like I don't think they'd sign a veteran before the draft either. I think anything that happens will be during the draft or after. So that's kind of what we have to watch for.
A couple like draft scenarios or what I think might happen. We pretty much know because Tennessee didn't even meet with Abdul Carter or Shador. I think it was just Cam Ward. We know they're pretty much taking Cam Ward.
Yeah.
I don't think the Browns are taking quarterback, and if they do, I wouldn't put them past them, but because they also just signed Flacco, and I think they already have like 3 other quarterbacks. It's like, including Deshaun. It's like I don't know. I wouldn't put it past them.
To me, I feel like if they think
doesn't
they're
look
going to be
likely.
bad again, they might as well wait. But maybe they don't think they'll be bad. So who knows?
And at 3, the Giants could take Shador, but I think that's the team. If you're the Saints, maybe try to work it out because the Giants low key wouldn't mind trading down, and the Saints that's a team now that would want to move up.
That would make sense, yeah. But it's also the Giants are such an interesting thing because it feels like the GM and coach have to be on the hot seat, which would in most cases would make you think they're more likely to take a quarterback. We'll see though, because in their heads they're probably like, we can't be this bad next year, or we won't have jobs. So it's like the idea of waiting for a quarterback is like, oh, we'll just suck again and get a good one next year. It's like they can't really think that way because their jobs are on the line. But I mean, they have Russ and Jameis, but I don't think they're not long-term guys. To me, quarterback is still very possible for New York, but we'll see.
Because if you look at the draft order after New York, the Patriots and Jags aren't getting a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because they both have. Well, I don't know if you could say young for the Jags, but he's younger. And then the Raiders are 6. I don't think. I mean, they just gave Gino the money, so he's not going to get it. The Jets, they just gave Justin Fields But it's just a 2-year
Although,
contract. It's not like they
yeah,
can.
it depends. If they really like Shador or someone else, they could still take one because, first of all,
Like I
Fields'
can see the
contract.
Jets going for it,
Yeah, Fields'
and
contract is
then
only 2 years, but they can also get out of it very easily after this first year. So
Panthers at
it's
8,
still
they're not
possible.
getting a QB.
No,
So I think if you're the Saints, if you don't want to pay too much for the New York, you can maybe convince the Jags at 5 to maybe go down. Be a little bit of a hard sell, but you can maybe do it.
But also, if there's no one between them and the Jags who need a quarterback, it's who knows. The draft gets weird because there might be other teams trying to move up too. So I'm sure there'll be a lot of finagling and deal making in the next few weeks. But we'll see how this plays.
The Saints right now, they have 9, 40, 71.
Yeah.
And if you're like the Giants, at least the GM, if you're like, hey, I traded down from 3 to 9, but I picked up 40 and a second round next year, like at least that makes you look like, hey, that's pretty good. You know, at least
all I'd say, like without overthinking it, I would just say Derek Carr's injury
for the
means
draft.
It's even more likely multiple quarterbacks go top 10 now.
Yeah.
Instead of just one, like some people have thought. Like I don't think Shador is going to fall as deep anymore. Like some people were thinking maybe he'll fall a bit, but with the Saints there, I doubt it now. We'll see.
I doubt Shador is in the top 10. And if they all let him go, brave from the Saints, but they're basically, to me, that's them saying, yeah, we want to tank.
Yeah, we're done shifting all this money around to keep losing. Let's just eat it.
I mean, to be honest, you kind of just want to eat it at this point. Like, just eat it, so then you could start
a weird
from
team
good.
Because the NFC South's like not good, so they're still like kind of close to
they
being
have
a
chance
playoff.
Anyway. Yeah,
it's such a mess over there, man.
Moving on from the NFL/Saints/draft news, we got our NHL check-in. Preston, take it away.
So just kind of run you through some of the storylines, kind of heading as we wind down the NHL regular season. We're very close to the end, probably 2 or 3 games left for some teams, just depending. Some of the stuff we know already in terms of playoffs. I'm going to go through some of that, some of the interesting storylines, and just give overall recap. So to start, Washington, the Capitals, obviously we know about Ovechkin hitting his goal-scoring record recently. They're still in the fight for the President's Trophy, which is the team with the most points in the regular season. They're still 1 behind, but they have that game in hand still. Although they're 2-3 in their last 5 games, including a 7-0 loss to Columbus yesterday. But they are resting a lot of players in that game, so like I feel like momentum is a thing, so it's interesting to see this kind of strategy they're going with. Also, resting that many guys and accepting a blowout loss this late in the season does make me wonder how invested they are in winning that President's Trophy. Maybe they don't care, or maybe they're extra superstitious and are like, no one who wins this thing wins the cup, so we're just not even going to worry about it. Who knows? But it was interesting to see a team that's fighting for the President's Trophy rest that many starters. We'll see. Along with that, staying in the East, Ottawa has finally clinched their wildcard spot. This is their first time back in the playoffs since 2017, ending the longest playoff drought in their team history at 8 seasons. Nice to see them back. Matty Tkachuk's brother, Brady, plays for that team. It'll be very fun to finally see the other Tkachuk brother in the playoffs after seeing what Matty did with Florida this past season. In terms of some matchups we're likely to see in the East, these are pretty close to confirmed. Nothing's like set in stone yet, but it's very likely you're going to get the Lightning versus Panthers playoff series again in the first round. Always a good one, a real rivalry. That's part of how the NHL structures their playoffs, is you get the rivalry games early. Sometimes I prefer it was structured more normal, and maybe that'd be a better series to see later in the playoffs. But either way, 2 very tough teams are going to be playing each other early. Very interesting to see what level of playing ability Matthew Tkachuk is by the time the playoff series starts. You also have the Canes and Devils likely to be meeting up. This is another interesting one in terms of storylines. These are what I'd call the 2 like left for dead teams this playoffs. They both lost players either to trade or to injury, and a lot of people just aren't thinking about them as much anymore. Rantanen is the player Carolina made a big move for earlier in the season, had to quickly move off him and ship him to Dallas. But they have actually not done bad with some of the lesser talked about guys they brought in recently, and seem to be still like a very good team, and they have a sound coach and a structure that should help them. So it'll be very interesting to see what kind of noise they can make in the playoffs. The Devils, similar boat. Like they didn't fall off the cliff completely, but you're missing Jack Hughes, and that makes it very tough. So it's kind of interesting to see those teams potentially face off early. We'll get to see which of those teams actually really was most impacted from the losses they sustained during the regular season. Also, Montreal is strongly in the lead for that second wildcard spot East, which would make their first playoff appearance since they were in the Stanley Cup Finals back in 2021. It'd be big for the city. Very, very passionate hockey fan. It's there, the biggest arena in terms of capacity, I still believe, in the NHL. So it'd be very cool to see the Bell Center rocking again. Good for this country of Canada to get Ottawa and Montreal back in the playoffs, most likely. And then in the West, I don't have as much to talk about. Winnipeg is still firmly in the mix for that President's Trophy. Like I said, Washington seems to not care about it as much, so we'll see what happens. And then you also have the Blues and Wild are not officially in, but they hold pretty sizable leads in the race for those two wildcard spots, especially the Blues. The Blues are more safe than the Wild, but it ultimately seems like St. Louis and Minnesota will both be in the playoffs this time around. So that's what I got for the wrap-up. I don't know if you want to add anything, Jesus. That's kind of what I got so far.
I'm looking forward to the playoffs. I really enjoy playoff hockey. Really, really looking forward to Lightning versus Panthers. I'm a Panthers fan. That series last year, it's what made me like a Panthers fan and like a hockey fan. Yeah, I'm really excited. Playoffs start the 19th, I think. Really, really excited. Almost pulled my Ethernet cable out from under me. Yeah, super excited.
So if that is indeed the matchup, that will likely be one of the best first round matchups this playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So just to wrap up this NHL segment, I will give what the playoff round one matchups would be based on the standings from April 12th. There might be games actively going on, so those ones aren't a part of this, but just from what I checked a few hours ago, it would be Washington versus Montreal, Carolina versus New Jersey, Toronto versus Ottawa. That's a battle in Canada, another good matchup. And then obviously Tampa versus Florida. If you ask me, the most intriguing series in the East is Tampa, Florida, number one, obviously, and then Toronto, Ottawa might be fun as well. In the West, you get Winnipeg versus Minnesota, Dallas versus Colorado, a matchup we've seen a ton. Always good. Two very, very good teams. Dallas needs to finally break through at one point. That'll be a fun one to watch. Vegas versus St. Louis. St. Louis was kind of a hot team for a little bit. They're still doing all right. Obviously, that's that top wild card. That might be one to keep an eye on. And then you have Las Vegas versus Edmonton, which means Connor McDavid and the Oilers that were just in the Stanley Cup Finals are not the top team in that matchup. They actually wouldn't have home ice advantage. So that'll be interesting to see if maybe they can outperform their seeding this time around using that experience they gained from last year. And so that's all we got in terms of the NHL this week, and we'll talk about it more in the next episode as well.
Correct. Moving on to the last segment of the P&J Sports Show, it is our top 5 sporting events that we would like to attend at some point in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
I'll start first with my number 5. I would like to attend a Rose Bowl game.
Yep.
I really like the arena. It looks so nice, and it'll be a college football playoff. I don't have a team or a university/college per se that I like, so I'd be happy with anyone there.
Yeah.
But if I got to see a team like Alabama or Georgia lose, I'd be happy.
It's always fun. Yep. So my 5, I had a long list to kind of narrow down from. So I'm going to have to explain this a little bit. I will say the preface, kind of like what you just said about not having a team. I tried to make this about the events themselves and not about like what if my team was there, because obviously, so the preface, I didn't choose any like home playoff games for my favorite teams. To me, it's a given in my opinion. I think that obviously for me, like if I could see the Steelers in a Super Bowl or the Pacers in an NBA Finals, like that's huge. But I'm thinking just more about the prestige of the events themselves. So yeah, I went more in that direction. So my number 5 is the Final Four / Natty of college basketball. Obviously, it's all on the same location, all in the same hub over like 2 or 3 days. If I had to choose one of the, I'd choose the Natty, I guess, over. But it's all kind of one experience. and it's just a cool concept. I think the fan bases all being there, the fact that it's a basketball game inside a football stadium and it's filled to the brim, like at least 50,000 people at these things, it's really cool. And I think that'd be a unique thing and a fun thing to experience live and in person. So that's my number 5 is the Final Four. Men's Final Four, if I had to be specific.
Great pick. My number 4, it's a little vague because I'm not super familiar with how golf works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's at different events or if they have specific locations for it, but I would like to attend
The
the
Masters.
day of the Masters. It's just I've seen clips from it. It always looks like it's because you're watching the best of the best golf players, and like you see them pause, you see them do shit to balls, and you're like, how did they do that, man? Like one of the craziest clips I've seen. I don't know if it's from the Masters, but it's from the PGA at least. Is this guy hits the ball and he skids it over the water, gets
Cool
on the
green,
the green, and it does like a big curl, boom, into the hole. It's like, what the hell? I'd love to see that in person. I do enjoy playing golf. It's not as fun to watching it, at least on the TV. In person, is probably way more entertaining than on TV, but playing it is really fun. So
to me,
my number 4
golf
would be the Masters.
Yeah, golf is kind of like how we kind of describe baseball in terms of it's like social watching with like your buddies or something, because obviously you can't be at every hole of the course at once. So like you choose your spots and you just enjoy the time there. You eat the very cheap food at the Masters. They're actually famous for the cheap food. That's something a lot of people want to try as well. It's a very prestigious event. It's on my honorable mentions list, of course, but there are some interesting things. I don't know if you know all the rules, but there's no phones in the Masters. So you have to leave your phone in your car. But there's a wired phone you can use to call people inside the venue if you need to. All the food's cheap, like sandwiches. Nothing costs more than $3.
Yeah, I saw that.
And they have their own unique items and stuff. It's a cool event. It's something I feel like if you had the resources to go, you would go at least once. Is what I'd say. Yeah. Even if you're not a big golfer.
And there's no way less than 70% of that crowd isn't hammered, bro. I've seen clips of those. Those people, they're struggling to stand. What's your number 4?
My number 4 will be the college football national championship. So a little less prestigious as the Rose Bowl, like you chose, but it is the top event of the season. It's something, I love college football, for being honest. Like when we did the rankings on the first episode, that was my number 1 sport in terms of watching and enjoying. So getting to see the top event of that sport is obviously a dream of mine. It'd be very cool to go to. Obviously, I would hope it involved a team I like the last one did. Didn't go the way I wanted to, but they were there. So, but either way, just getting to that event and experiencing the fandom of 2 college teams who made it all the way to the final, I think would be very fun to do.
My number 3, I put a Stanley Cup final, but specifically, I would love to attend a Game 7.
Yeah.
Because that atmosphere must be crazy. And like I said, I haven't been to a hockey game in person, and I feel like I would love definitely, like especially playoffs, specifically the Stanley Cup. And then if I could have it, a Game 7. Oh, man, I'd love to be in there. Definitely wouldn't be cheap.
No, probably not.
That would be very expensive, but I'd love it.
Yeah. That's a good one. Like, I think even if there were teams that didn't care about just being there for that moment, and the cup raising and all that stuff would be very cool for sure. So we're on 3 now.
Yes, you're 3.
Okay, so we're finally onto the actual list I made. This one, I was torn between a lot because, like, I chose this more because of my love of the sport than the event itself, and that's the Super Bowl. Just because the truth about the Super Bowl is, listen, the Steelers are my team above every other team, so that's the one I want to win the most. But it's also a pretty corporate feeling event from the way everything's described. Like, it still seems super fun to be there, and the NFL puts on events properly, so there'd be a lot of fun stuff to do outside the stadium, inside the stadium, stuff like that. So it's more about the sport itself than the event. Like there's less prestige in history than some of the events I left out that are on my honorable mentions. But the fact it's the pinnacle of my favorite sport and the most popular sport in the U.S., to me, it still holds weight. So I have the Super Bowl at number 3.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: I didn't include the Super Bowl because from what I have read and seen from vlogs and social media, is that the Super Bowl nowadays it's like 10% one side's fan, another 10% of the other side's fan, and then it's like 80% of just people that kind of like football or just like have money to go there.
Yeah.
And that it's not like people there are excited for the game, but it's like, hey man, what team do you like? It's like, oh, I like the Jaguars. It's like, what are you here for? It's like, oh, I'm rich. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. And the prices just keep going up, 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 and up, and I'm like, oh. It's like, would I like to go for it? Yeah, but I don't know. From what I read and see, the atmosphere doesn't look like how I would hope it would. If that makes sense. But top 2, my number 2. This is the only one where it's team specific on my list. It's a little bit of cheating, but I would love to go to a Vikings playoff home game. Preferably, if I could have my choice, it'd be against a division rival. Mm-hmm. But I want to go to the Minnesota's home game in general. But God, I definitely want to go to a playoff game. See, from 2022, that playoff game against the Giants, being in there must have been fantastic until the last 4 minutes of the game.
The best one would have been the Minneapolis Miracle. Would have been the one to be at.
Was it in Minneapolis? I thought that was
I'm pretty sure. Ooh, I feel like the way the crowd reacted, I think it was in Minnesota. The Vikings were wearing white, I think, though. No, they weren't. They were wearing purple, and the Saints safety that screwed up was in white. So I think that was a home game for Minnesota. Because the crowd was roaring when he scored that touchdown. The Saints wouldn't have been doing that. So.
Yeah, it was a U.S. Bank Stadium. That was the year it opened too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because the Vikings had a chance to be. Well, I don't know if they were the first team to play in the Super Bowl in their arena, but they would have had the chance to win it too if they went. But
that was the fun year with Case Keenum.
Anyway,
Case Keenum, Blake Bortles, and Nick Foles were 3 of the 4 remaining quarterbacks in the championship round. All right, so my number, we on 2?
You froze for a second, but I know what you were saying.
Okay, so my 2 is I think we've referenced this in the first episode in my hat. Kind of would give you a hint too, since no one outside of Indiana is a Pacers fan probably. But I'm a lifelong Hoosier, born and raised, so I feel like I am obligated to include the Indy 500 on this list. It is something I have not been to, but it feels like a rite of passage in this state. We are the home of motor racing in this country, I feel for sure. And Indy 500 is, if not the, definitely top. To me, it's the most prestigious event in all of motorsports. I think even European race fans or other people would have to agree or at least concede slightly that, at the very least, it's close. It's tough to beat it. F1 is maybe Monaco, and then you have the Daytona in NASCAR. But to me, you can't beat the prestige of an Indy 500. Plus, thinking about 250,000 people there watching this race happen, it seems like it'd be a very fun thing to do, and it's a bucket list item for every Hoosier, more than because I'm not a diehard race fan of any type of racing really, and especially IndyCar. I haven't watched much IndyCar, but just being there and experiencing that and kind of what it means for the state I live in, it's almost cultural, man. So it'd be very cool to go. Yeah. Best trophy in sports, by the way, if you look it up later. Telling you.
I looked it up right now. The prices, bro. General admission is only $50.
So there's 250,000 seats, so it's got to be somewhat cheap.
If you want a reserve seat, which I'm assuming just means in the stands, it's even then you're only spending around $100. I'm gonna look it up right now. The Indy 500 trophy. Wow,
It's
that is huge, and that
it's
looks
giant, and they
gorgeous.
put bronze bust of the winners' faces on it, like the Hall of Fame bust, but they're on the
Yeah,
trophy. It's sick.
that's cool. I
Stanley
like that.
Cup's a close second, and it's definitely best for team sports, but the best overall trophy is the Indy 500 one.
Moving on to our number ones.
Yep.
For me, my number one would be a World Cup final.
Yeah.
Again, teams doesn't matter. Obviously, I would love it if it was Mexico, but like it doesn't have to be. Like just every video I see from a World Cup final, like they all look like that whole stadium is like insane into it,
Yeah.
and I would love to be in it. I love soccer. I love watching it in person. Like it's up there for me, number one, but it's yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to rattle off some honorable mentions real quick, just so people aren't like, well, what about this event? It's like I thought about a decent amount of these. So the Kentucky Derby it's a cool event. I'm not fancy like that, but it still would be fun to go to at least once. Any
It's
of
not a
the
fan,
four tennis majors, so the U.S. Open, the French Open, Wimbledon, and the Australian Open, I would give preferential treatment to the U.S. Open. Just being an American, I think it'd be cool to go there and watch one of the American tennis players in our Arthur Ashe Stadium. I think it'd be fun. Plus, I've never seen live tennis, so it'd be cool to start with the pinnacle of it. And then I also included, like I mentioned earlier, since I wasn't doing it, but any like big event for one of my favorite teams, like how you in a Minnesota Vikings home playoff game, it'd be like a Steelers home playoff game, Pacers home playoff game. This will never happen ever, but a Pirates home playoff game, and a Penguins home playoff game would be sick too. And then I also put along your lines, you did a World Cup final overall, but since I'm so deeply invested in only one team, I did any World Cup game that the U.S. men's national team is playing in would be my version of a top tier World Cup game. And then my actual number one, it's kind of broad. Like I get it, it might be cheating a little bit, but kind of like the Masters, how the Masters is multiple days and no one cares. It's the Masters. You just say it's the Masters. To me, that's the same case with the Summer Olympics. So to me, my dream sport event to attend is the Summer Olympics. And it's not just because of a single. So it's not like, oh, I need to see the swimming the most or the track the most. It's the event as a whole, the atmosphere as a whole. It's like literally everyone from across the world is in one strip in a city, checking out a bunch of different events and rooting for their country. To me, that'd be the coolest thing to go to for sure.
Yeah.
Especially the next one's in LA,
Yeah.
so it'd even be on
I
US
mean, the
soil.
World Cup next year.
The
Going to what
US
you're saying
plays
with
all their
the
games
World,
on the
would you like
West
to see
Coast.
the U.S. play in the World Cup?
They play in
I was gonna
Seattle.
say,
and
looking
LA.
at the map, you have to hope they play in Kansas or Philadelphia.
They
But
don't. I think they might play in Philly if they advance far enough. I don't know how far, but I know their group games are all the way on the freaking West Coast, Seattle and
West
Los
Coast.
Angeles. Horrible choice by FIFA, by the way. We have the U.S. national team has the least amount of fans in the West Coast compared to the Midwest and the East Coast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure U.S. fans will travel, and Seattle
They show up for
Stadium
the
is
World Cup.
known for
We show up for the
being
World
like
Cup at least. We
Seattle
don't show up for the
Stadium
Nations
is
League.
that where the Seahawks play? I mean, I'm assuming
Yeah.
so, right?
Yeah.
That stadium is known for like being super loud from the fans,
Mhm.
so home court advantage might help you.
Probably
there.
the best MLS fan base.
Kansas
yeah.
City, their stadium is known for that too, but I doubt the U.S. team would want to play there.
Yeah, it's probably one of
knows?
the least modern stadiums that is hosting games. But yeah, so that's our list of the top sporting events we'd like to attend. Did you have any honorable mentions you wanted to throw in now that you kind of thought about it more and we talked about it?
Thinking about it, I'd probably put a World Series game in there.
Yeah.
No team preference. I know my team won't make it in my lifetime, but
Yeah.
probably also like thinking about it. You have a really good shot with the Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
I think that would also be a fun thing to attend. And looking at your honorable mentions, yeah, Final Four basketball
Yeah.
one that'd be up there for me.
Really, any March Madness rounds, like Indy gets the host. They host March Madness games a lot, so at some point I would like to go, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure they even have the final. Indy has the Final Four next year, actually.
Hell yeah.
which means it'll be time for an Indiana team
we'll
to
vlog
finally get
there. Yeah, by the time the channel blows up, they'll know right us.
They'll pay for us to come.
Hey man, you got to speak it into existence. Anyway, guys, that'll wrap up the P&J Sports Show episode 2. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for all support. I know me and Preston appreciate it. And that's all I got to say. Love you guys. Take care. Preston, would you like to say anything else?
Yeah, just kind of along what you said. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. Hopefully we just get more people on board. I'm going to say the same thing I said last time. We always are searching for topics or things to talk about, so feel free to comment new ideas for future episodes. Or if you want to critique him saying that Memphis would beat OKC, could call him crazy in the comments, that's fine too. Or anything else you agree or disagree with us on, I would love to reply and debate in these comments as well. I'm 100% down with that. And just stay tuned to this channel for more content. We're going to hopefully just upload more often and more consistently and just keep growing from here. So stay tuned.